The immediate post-war transition. When World War II ended in 1945, the United States Army Air Forces faced an unprecedented surplus of aircraft. Among these were thousands of P-51 Mustangs, the legendary fighter that had dominated the skies over Europe and the Pacific. The immediate aftermath saw a massive reduction in military forces, and the Air Force quickly began decommissioning aircraft. Many P-51s were simply scrapped, their aluminum bodies melted down for reuse in civilian industries. Entire fields in Arizona and California became graveyards for these warbirds, parked wingtip to wingtip under the desert sun. However, the P-51 story was far from over. The emerging Cold War and new conflicts would ensure that this remarkable aircraft continued to serve. The Air Force retained several hundred Mustangs in active service, recognizing their value as fighter bombers and reconnaissance platforms. In 1947, when the Air Force became an independent branch, the P-51 was redesignated as the F-51, reflecting its new role in the jet age. Despite the arrival of jets like the P-80 Shooting Star, the Mustang remained relevant due to its long range, reliability, and excellent ground attack capabilities. Many units continued flying F-51s well into the late 1940s, particularly in Air National Guard squadrons across America. Service in the Korean War. The outbreak of the Korean War in June 1950 brought the F-51 Mustang back to the front lines in a major combat role. When North Korean forces invaded South Korea, the United States Air Force discovered that its new jet fighters, while fast, had limited endurance and were less effective at close air support missions. The F-51 proved ideal for the war's requirements. Its ability to carry bombs, rockets, and napalm, combined with excellent low-altitude handling and long loitering time over the battlefield, made it invaluable. Mustangs flew thousands of ground attack sorties, supporting United Nations troops and striking North Korean and Chinese positions. Pilots praised the aircraft's ruggedness and ability to absorb battle damage and return home. The F-51 served alongside more modern jets, proving that piston-engine fighters still had a place in modern warfare. However, the environment was harsh. Operating from rough Korean airstrips caused mechanical issues, and Mustangs suffered significant losses to ground fire and enemy fighters. By 1953, as the war ended, jet aircraft had largely replaced the F-51 in frontline service, but the Mustang had proven its worth one final time in American hands. Foreign military service. While the U.S. military phased out the Mustang, numerous foreign air forces eagerly adopted the type. Through military assistance programs, the United States transferred hundreds of F-51s to Allied nations during the Cold War. The Royal Canadian Air Force operated Mustangs into the mid-1950s, using them for fighter and reconnaissance roles. Australia received Mustangs to replace their wartime fighters and used them extensively until jets arrived. In Latin America, the F-51 found a particularly long service life. The air forces of Bolivia, Costa Rica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Uruguay all operated Mustangs. Some of these nations flew them into the 1970s and even 1980s, making the Mustang one of the longest-serving fighter aircraft in history. The Israeli Air Force used Mustangs during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and the 1956 Suez Crisis, where they performed ground attack missions. Sweden operated the Mustang as the J-26 from 1945 to 1952. The Philippines, South Korea, and nationalist China also received Mustangs. Many of these aircraft saw combat in various regional conflicts, civil wars, and counterinsurgency operations long after they had been retired from U.S. service. The birth of air racing. As military Mustangs became surplus in the late 1940s and 1950s, civilian pilots discovered they could purchase these high-performance fighters at bargain prices. This availability coincided with the revival of air racing in America, creating a perfect match. The P-51 speed, power, and handling made it a natural choice for unlimited class racing. The Cleveland National Air Races, which resumed in 1946 after being suspended during the war, featured modified Mustangs competing against other warbirds. Pilots began modifying their Mustangs for racing, clipping wings for reduced drag, removing military equipment for weight savings, and tuning engines for maximum power. The Bendix Trophy race became a premier event for these modified fighters. By the 1960s, the Reno Air Races had become the premier venue for unlimited air racing, and P-51s dominated the field. Famous racing Mustangs like Dago Red, Voodoo, and Striga became household names among aviation enthusiasts. These highly modified racers achieved speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour, far beyond what the original designers had envisioned. Air racing preserved not only the aircraft but also the skills and knowledge needed to maintain these complex machines. National Guard and Reserve Operations. Throughout the late 1940s and into the 1950s, the Air National Guard, ANG, became the primary operator of F-51 Mustangs within the United States. After World War II, as the active-duty Air Force transitioned to jet fighters, the Mustang found a new home with Guard units in virtually every state. These part-time military aviators flew F-51s for air defense, maintaining readiness to protect American skies during the early Cold War period. Guard pilots, many of them World War II veterans, appreciated the familiar Mustang and maintained high levels of proficiency. The aircraft were well suited to the Guard's mission, being relatively economical to operate compared to jets and capable of operating from smaller airfields. During the Korean War, several ANG units were federalized and deployed to combat, taking their F-51s with them. Some Guard units continued flying Mustangs until 1957, making them among the last official military operators of the type in America. The West Virginia and Ohio Air National Guard were particularly notable for their extended Mustang operations. This Guard service helped preserve institutional knowledge about the aircraft and kept many examples in airworthy condition. Surplus sales and modifications. As military forces worldwide retired their Mustangs, thousands became available on the civilian market. The U.S. government sold surplus P-51s through the War Assets Administration and later the Defense Reutilization and Marketing Service. Prices were remarkably low, often just a few $1,000s for a complete aircraft. Civilians purchased Mustangs for various purposes beyond racing. Some were converted into executive transports, with luxury interiors installed in place of military equipment. Agricultural operators modified Mustangs for crop dusting and aerial application work, though the aircraft's speed and power made them less than ideal for this role. The most significant conversions were undertaken by companies like Trans-Florida Aviation and Cavalier Aircraft Corporation. Cavalier, in particular, developed the Cavalier Mustang, a significantly upgraded version with a taller vertical stabilizer, wing-tip fuel tanks, and modern avionics. These conversions were marketed to foreign governments and civilian operators. Some Cavalier Mustangs served in counterinsurgency roles in Latin America during the 1960s and 1970s. The conversion industry helped keep Mustangs flying and maintained expertise in operating and maintaining these warbirds during a period when they might have been lost to history. The racing legacy continues. The Reno National Championship Air Races, established in 1964, became the ultimate proving ground for racing Mustangs. The Unlimited class, featuring unlimited modifications to World War II fighters, attracted the most powerful and fastest piston-engine aircraft ever built. Over decades, racing teams pushed P-51 technology to extraordinary limits. Engine builders developed techniques to extract well over 3,000 horsepower from the Rolls-Royce Merlin and Packard V1650 engines, nearly triple the original military rating. Aerodynamic refinements included radiator modifications, surface smoothing, and various drag reduction schemes. Famous racing Mustangs set records that stood for decades. Dago Red, piloted by legends like Skip Holm and others, became one of the most successful racing Mustangs ever, winning multiple championships. The intense competition drove innovation in materials, engines, and aerodynamics. Some teams experimented with contra-rotating propellers, afterburning, and exotic fuel mixtures. Racing accidents occasionally occurred, highlighting the risks of pushing 80-year-old designs beyond their limits. Nevertheless, the racing community maintained the highest standards of safety and airworthiness. The knowledge gained from racing proved invaluable for the broader Warbird community, improving understanding of Mustang systems and capabilities. The Warbird Restoration Movement. Beginning in the 1970s, a dedicated community of aviation enthusiasts began systematically restoring P-51 Mustangs to flying condition. What started as individual efforts evolved into a sophisticated industry. Collectors recognized the historical significance of these aircraft and invested substantial resources in authentic restorations. Companies specializing in Warbird restoration emerged, offering complete rebuild services. These shops developed expertise in fabricating rare parts, overhauling Merlin engines, and returning decades-old airframes to airworthy status. The process was expensive and time-consuming, often requiring years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some restorations aimed for complete authenticity, researching specific aircraft histories and recreating original paint schemes and markings. Others prioritized safety and reliability, incorporating modern materials and systems while maintaining the aircraft's external appearance. The restoration movement preserved irreplaceable examples of aviation history. Organizations like the Commemorative Air Force, formerly Confederate Air Force, collected and maintained flying Mustangs, using them for educational purposes. Museums acquired significant examples, with some maintaining them in flying condition and others preserving them as static displays. The movement also created a repository of knowledge about Mustang construction, systems, and operation that would have been lost otherwise. Modern preservation and airshows. Today, approximately 150 P-51 Mustangs remain in flying condition worldwide, representing a tiny fraction of the more than 15,000 originally built. These aircraft are treasured pieces of aviation history, maintained to the highest standards by dedicated owners and operators. Airshows across America and around the world regularly feature P-51s, allowing the public to see and hear these legendary fighters in flight. The distinctive sound of the Merlin engine and the graceful lines of the Mustang make it one of the most popular airshow performers. Some Mustangs are maintained in immaculate, show-quality condition, while others fly regularly in heritage flight formations alongside modern military jets, creating a visible link between past and present. The cost of maintaining a flying P-51 is substantial, with annual operating expenses easily exceeding $100,000 when accounting for fuel, maintenance, insurance, and hangar fees. Major overhauls can cost millions. Despite these challenges, owners remain committed to keeping these aircraft flying. Organizations like the Commemorative Air Force, Collings Foundation, and numerous private collectors ensure that future generations can experience the Mustang in flight. Flight training programs teach new pilots to safely operate these complex, high-performance aircraft. Legacy and cultural impact. The P-51 Mustang's post-war history extends far beyond its military and racing achievements. It has become an enduring symbol of American ingenuity, engineering excellence, and the greatest generation's sacrifice. In popular culture, the Mustang appears in countless films, documentaries, and books about World War II and aviation history. Models and artwork featuring the P-51 remain popular among collectors. The aircraft's influence on subsequent designs is notable, with its laminar flow wing and aerodynamic efficiency inspiring post-war aircraft development. Aviation museums worldwide display Mustangs as centerpieces of their collections, with the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, the National Museum of the United States Air Force, and Britain's Imperial War Museum among those housing significant examples. The Mustang story demonstrates how military technology can transition to civilian use, enriching society through air racing, historical preservation, and education. For many, the P-51 represents the pinnacle of piston-engine fighter design, a testament to the engineering achievements possible when necessity drives innovation. Today's Mustang community ensures this legacy continues, maintaining these aircraft not merely as museum pieces but as living, flying monuments to history. The P-51's journey from wartime fighter to peacetime icon exemplifies the enduring appeal of exceptional design and the dedication of those who preserve our aviation heritage.